Hello and welcome to the Heal at Scale Masterclass. It's Joy Houston here. I'll be revealing the 9 accelerators to scale your practice. Here's a quick overview of what we'll be looking at today. Over the last decade, we've cultivated proven processes that consistently work amazingly well to help practitioners heal at scale. Now, we've combined all of this into what we call the ACE method, and that's what you'll be learning here today. In the 90 minutes we've got together, we're going to start by giving you the high-level overview of the ACE method. So I call that the ACE intro. That'll help you understand the overarching concept. And after that, we'll dive into each of the 3 pillars, which are aware, convert, and elevate. That'll let you see which of the tools inside each one of the accelerators that would be most beneficial to start scaling your practice right now. And at the end, I'll wrap up with an invitation to schedule a free practitioner accelerator strategy session so that we can customize the method for your unique practice. Now, just in case that's not crystal clear, I want to reiterate that there's nothing to buy here today. I'm simply going to reveal the systems that we've used to help practitioners heal at scale. If this resonates with you and you want to have a plan customized for your practice, then awesome. Let's have a call. We'll hop on this accelerator strategy session. They're totally free. And I'm restating that because I personally can relax and learn a lot better when I'm not waiting for some sort of sales pitch to kick in. Another thing that I should say as we move on here, especially as you're going to see some of the people that we've had a lot of success with, I want to let you know that this process works for a wide range of practitioners. Now, not everyone, but we've used this for everyone from, people who just wanted to be the best primary care physician for their community to people who specialize in, fertility, autoimmunity, neuroscience, food intolerance, hormones, even pain management. I mean, these processes work. So, if you want any tips on whether you're in the right place or not, if you want to kind of make that distinction now, which I highly recommend that you do, your time is valuable, so is mine. I would say that what differentiates practitioners that excel with the ACE method are the following qualities. I'd say you're really clear on the patient that you would love to treat. So you're really clear on your ideal patient and what, when you grow at scale, what would be your ideal audience. You're really clear on that. You recognize your protocols and processes as highly valuable IP, right down to the little touches that show you and your staff care. You have a right-hand helper. You're going to need an integrator who can implement a lot of the things that you're going to learn about here today. And the reason for that is we cannot have you getting bogged down with things that are just way too far outside your genius zone. You'd also need to be open and coachable because we're going to see some paradigm shifts here today, including just the concept of healing at scale, right? I mean, conventional medicine is based on a one-on-one model, right? So you have to be very open in order to receive these kind of paradigm shifts that we're going to talk about. So you'd have to see the value in healing at scale. Now, if that sounds like you, then great, you're in the right place. If not, if you're not interested in healing at scale, then you probably could check out now. But as we get into the concept of scaling, I'd love to let you know the reason why we believe so strongly in designing a business that can scale, which just means you can ramp up the difference that you make, your profits, and you can do those things without it consuming your daily life. And we know from experience that can happen, right? We had a really kick-ass model. It made tons of money, but it also dominated our time and attention. I mean, to the point that, after supporting one practitioner after the other through best-selling book campaign after campaign or product or supplement launch, program launch, whatever it was, and don't get me wrong, we're really grateful for that amazing opportunity. And for everyone that we've worked with, we've just expanded our knowledge, our experience, our community of professionals. We know what to rely on, what tech to rely on. We are grateful for everyone we've ever been able to work with. It's been really inspiring. But turning those practitioners into household names was definitely, it drawed, most of our life force, most of our days. And one day in the middle of a really hectic 3-ring circus of a launch, I mean, it was literally an internal launch, an affiliate launch, and an Amazon launch, sort of all at one time, complete chaos, which can be fun. But then we realized the impact of that on our family when this little blonde, adorable guy here walked into our office And he just looked crushed. And he told us, I need more time with you guys. And man, that was it. Game over. Like, time for a strategy that allowed us to prioritize family, to live a balanced life. And it's funny, so many of the practitioners that we've worked for, their concepts include this work-life balance situation. And ironically, we're busting ass working for them, and we had no work-life balance. So him coming in and saying it was bigger than any internal dialogue we might have been having about, I'm not getting to yoga like I should, or whatever was going on with either Travis or I internally. And I should say by we, when I say we, Travis Houston is my husband. He's my partner here at the agency. We run this together. And he has had insane experience working for practitioners. And I have as well. Some projects we've worked on together as a team, and some we've worked on independently. But what you're going to learn about today is the conglomeration of everything that has worked best over everything that we've done, refined to simplicity and elegance so that you can implement it. So this little blonde guy here is our reason for needing to find a different way than the one-on-one model, and to switch that something to something that's more scalable. So I ask you, who is it that would benefit from you having a scalable practice? What difference would it make if you could make more money predictably and increase more of the profits for your business, touch more people's lives, but if you could also do that while maintaining or even growing the amount of freedom that you have from the practice? So keep that in mind as we're sort of rolling through this. I'm sure that all of us have a strong why. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right into, switch right over here to my iPad, and I'm going to take you through this handout. Now, hopefully you already have this handout downloaded. If you don't already have it, I think it's extremely helpful for you to be able to follow along. Like I said, we're going to cover, it's 3 pillars, but each pillar has 3 accelerators, and the accelerators have many tools in it. So it's going to be easy going at this pace to lose track. So if you do not already have the handout, you can go to Facebook and search for Heal at Scale. Search for Heal at Scale, and you'll find our private Facebook group. In that Facebook group, you can grab a copy of the handout. It's also good because some of the content that we're going to cover here today, some of the lessons that I'm going to walk you through, there are more in-depth tutorials there. So if you feel a little rushed, what did she say? I didn't quite get that. She's moving too fast. This lady talks too quickly. Whatever gets in the way of your learning at this pace, you can go through the more detailed tutorials if you join that private Facebook group. And just so you know, it is a practitioner-only Facebook group. We're gonna Google you before we let you in, just to make sure that you're a doctor, because we want you to have that confidence that you're in good company of your peers and not just anybody is jumping into that group. All right, so I'm sure that we all have that strong why. Let's just make sure that you do not end up buried in a workload that has you join the 42% of your peers who are feeling totally burnt out, right? That's why we want to do this healing at scale rather than heal more people one at one. We would love for you to be able to heal at scale. We don't want any more doctors falling into that burnout zone, and certainly none of them falling into those who are reporting being clinically depressed, which is growing, and that's sad. You guys have the most noble profession I can think of, and for you guys to be stressed out over what you do, man, that just really bums me out. So let's switch gears here, and hopefully you have the handout. The cover of it looks like this, and I'm going to go ahead and walk you through what we call the ACE method. Now let me center this here so you can see it really well. I know firsthand that practitioners have notoriously sloppy writing, but I'm going to do my best to write as clearly as I can for you here. But we're going to look deeper into each pillar. But the big thing that you need to know is you're going to have to be proficient in all 3 of these areas. The first is to create awareness, right? So we call that being aware. Creating awareness is the first big piece. The next thing that you're going to have to do is be able to convert that awareness into some sort of commerce that benefits your practice, right? And then once we get good at that, we want to be able to elevate the way your practice works, right? That's going to mean processes and SOPs, right? These are the building blocks to being able to heal at scale. Now, the whole point of this trio is so that we can do three things. And in working with practitioners, we found that what was really missing for them and what they wanted to have consistently, sort of reliably on tap, was they wanted to make a bigger difference, right? So they wanted to increase the impact that they have on the world. That's why I think you guys are such a noble profession, right? They also wanted to do that and be well rewarded, right? So that they could support their families. So that means they also wanted predictable profits, right? So many of them were suffering from like fits and starts of like, okay, great, I'll try some marketing stuff and I'll get people in the door. And then I'm busy taking people through who came through the door and busy taking care of those people. And then when those people run out, I don't have any fresh leads coming in. So it would be this odd fits and starts of in terms of their finances. And that's super flippin' stressful. And then the next thing that they really wanted was, once they got things humming, once we got them working well, they were like, holy cow, you guys are doing so much for us that we're losing our minds over here. So now what we need is some increased autonomy, right? We want our practice to be able to work even when we're not there, right? So that meant empowering teams, having clear SOPs in place, and all of that. When all three of those pieces were in place, well, at that point, now that practitioner was able to heal at scale, right? They could be on the beach with their sweetie or with their family having a good time, and their practice is still rolling. People are still having healing benefits from them, and everything's working out just great, right? So these are the three sections that we're going to look at here. Now, the point of the aware piece is really to go from confusion to clarity, right? From confusion to clarity. And what that means is you need to have a really clear understanding of exactly what your brand does and your voice in the marketplace. And you need to have a very clear understanding of the voice of those who need you, their thoughts and feelings, their needs. We really need to understand their world and what's going on in it. And once you understand those two sides of the coin really clearly, now we can spin it. So it's one cohesive piece. It looks like one smoothly rotating sphere. And in order to do that, we put something in place called foundational marketing. So this is the foundational marketing piece. And foundational marketing is all about that, making sure that your brand voice, your messaging is completely on point, and then it connects the dots with the needs of your ideal avatar or avatars. We call that foundational marketing. Anything that does not capture you and capture them and build a bridge between the two is going to make your marketing stall out, no matter how much money that you throw at it. Okay, once you're clear on those things, then you're going to need what we call a web of influence. This is all about the content that you have out in the world, right? We need you to have things that they can stick onto by reading or consuming that video that bring them further into the center of your web where your offers exist. Now, once you have relevant content in the world that does the job of connecting their world to your world, once you've got that done, then you're ready to drive traffic. But we find practitioners feel so uncomfortable in the world of traffic that they forget to be strategic about that. So that oftentimes looks like, they'll pay someone to run ads, but they are not pixeling those people. They're not capturing the emails, or if they are capturing the emails, they're not understanding the process of proper indoctrination. And that can really be a waste of money in terms of driving traffic. Okay. Now, the next piece of the funnel here is to convert. And the whole point of the convert pillar is to translate that initial connection, right? So that initial connection, and turn it into a commitment, right? We need to go from connection to commitment. So that's if we'll often use a dating analogy here, right? Okay, from the initial connection, the initial meeting of someone, all the way through to a commitment. And that commitment comes in intelligent stages, right? Maybe first we're dating, but not exclusively, then maybe things go great, we move in, we get engaged, we get married, we live happily ever after, something along those lines, right? So that would be commitment that happens intelligently at different stages. So in order to take an initial connection into commitment, there are 3 sections of tools that you need. The first is a tool set that helps you cultivate relationships. Because like we said, we need this to happen. We'll need the next bit, which is intelligent relationships, to happen over time. So in the beginning, we really need to do a lot to cultivate the relationship. Okay? Once we have officially cultivated the relationship and things are feeling good, okay, yes, this practitioner's world, I'm in alignment with their beliefs. They get me, they understand me. Once we have that level of connection, then we need to move to make intelligent invitations. And by intelligent invitations, what I mean is to time them right. Right? Like I said, if intelligent invitations, there we go. Like we don't walk up to someone that we first meet and say, hey, let's hop into bed together, or hey, let's get married. Or maybe some of us do, right? Maybe there's a certain people that works for. But in general, that would be skipping a few steps for most of us. So we want to make sure our invitations are timed intelligently. Every invitation, right? So we might want someone to say, consume an easy cheat sheet or a recipe book, maybe, before we would ask them to sit in on something like a 90-minute training or something like that, or to hop on the call with us, or to come in for a free consultation. So they need to be very intelligently timed. The next step in this is to delight and deliver. Now, this is where I find most practitioners do an amazing job. What tends to be missing here is SOPs, so that just like you can have a McDonald's burger right here in your hometown, not that any of us health-minded people would eat a McDonald's burger, but if you did, you could have one in your hometown, and you would remember the taste. And if you were traveling in Tokyo and you tasted one in Tokyo, it would taste exactly the same. And that comes from having a delight and deliver system where SOPs, standard operating procedures, are so clear that we know patients are going to have a very similar experience in terms of the level of wow we provide, right? That's what that is all about. Okay, now if we're able to do that, if we're able to get all the way around, we know who we are, we know who they are, so we create content. That content brings traffic to us. We know how to pay for that traffic strategically. Once we get them, we cultivate relationships. Awesome. Once we have a relationship, we've established we both like each other. Now we make intelligently timed invitations. They come into our sphere. They've made a commitment. They've bought for us. And now we have delighted and delivered your protocols and processes to them. Now, what do we do next if we're not a one-on-one practitioner? Now, if you want to cross the gap here from doing one-on-one to one-to-many, that's where this whole elevate piece comes in. Now, in order to elevate, once you've done that, then you need to evaluate. And you'll have to innovate. Right? So what that looks like is either you're doing two things. It happens on two sides. You're going to follow up with your team, and you're going to follow up with the people who you have served. And you're going to find out how we did. That's the evaluate piece. And then we're going to find out, wow, okay, the team was really bogged down here. Maybe you yourself, the practitioner, was bogged down over here. The practitioner, or the people that you helped, loved this and they hated this. Okay, great. Now we know where the stumbling blocks. There may be things that we can do to help the patient, to help the team, and to help you. And we can innovate innovate the way we delight and deliver, so that we have much clearer systems in place and that we can automate it. So whatever you're doing, we can have someone trained to follow in your footsteps come behind you and do that too in the event that you're gone. Right? That would be nice, right? The next thing that we need to be able to do is we need to use a process called profit progression. And this is a two-sided piece also. So just like evaluate the people you've helped, and evaluate the team that helps you serve, and evaluate your own view of how everything went so that you can innovate. Profit progression has two sides too. That's going to be on the patient side. On the patient side, we want to progress them through an initial purchase from us, an initial visit, through alternate offers, right? So perhaps they come in for one particular service that you provide, and maybe you have an upcoming program that could really get them a lot of support from like-minded people who have their same situation going on, and it would be a really cost-effective way for them to get your guidance. It's a 12-week program or something like that. Great. And if they've been through that and they'd like to progress to some private coaching, some one-on-one visits with you, perhaps ongoing supplements, that would be a progression for the individual. Now, profit progression on the business development side looks like adding alternate revenue streams, right? That might be understanding when it's time to go from selling other people's supplements to private labeling your own, to bringing on affiliates, to making business relationships that make sense within your niche. That's profit progression. And the very last accelerator over here is leverage leadership. Now that's going to start with you, right? So number one over here, that's going to be leveraging your leadership, but that is going to trickle out everywhere across your team, right? So that everyone who is wearing a hat right now, we all have all different kinds of hats that we wear, right? We even have our little chef toque, right? Whatever kind of hats you might be wearing. And we're going to take these hats. Here's a newspaper hat for you. If that hat doesn't make sense for them, we want to make a clear SOP on how they're doing it now and pass it on when there are things on their plate that they need to be spending their time on in order to scale the business much quicker. So leveraging leadership starts with you, but it is a process. It is a model. You are the example of that, and it's going to extend out all the way through your business. Okay. So that's the overview, and that is going to take you back through, and you can come back around. And once let's say you've taken a one-on-one thing that you do really, really well. For example, a doctor you'll hear about later today did this with immunity. Autoimmunity. She found out, if I could get all these things out of the way, if I could get them eating a certain way, thinking a certain way, taking certain supplements, getting chemicals out of their house. Well, if they did that before they invested in visits with me, dang, I come in looking like a rock star, right? And they really don't need very many one-on-one visits with me. And this particular thing makes money all day long while I'm sleeping. So she was able to see the one-to-one process could be turned one to many, right? So now instead of here, we're doing great. Well, because those could be bundled with supplements, well, that ramped up the income. Okay, now that program is automated and that makes more income, but it makes more income while she's on the beach drinking a cocktail, okay, with her family, having a super good time. So when she did that, then she could come back around and interview those people and make sure, okay, is there anything that I need to do for me, right? Does my voice, she was a woman, so we'll give her some pretty hair. Is there anything that I needed to change about the way I talk to people or the people that I helped, all these people over here? Was there anything that would make them happier if I had done it differently, because we love our people, right? And if so, we could add content and we would drive traffic to that content, and we might cultivate the relationship in a slightly different way, and you can continue to elevate your business by using this model. Okay, hopefully that makes sense for you so far. Don't worry too much if it doesn't, because we're going to look inside each one of these at each of these models so you can see the tools inside each one. So buckle your seatbelt and we will do that. While you are buckling, I would love for you to look at this triangle here with me, and I'd love for you to tell me where you're at with your flow of leads, of new patient leads, right? New people you can serve. If it's not directly patients, that's okay. With your new patient leads, I want you to think about this. We're going to use these blocked terms, but in terms of having a steady stream of new people coming into your practice constantly. So it's not, you can market now and then you get busy and then the practice gets so busy that you don't do anything about it, right? You don't do anything about marketing and then you're going to have an influx of leads. So I want to know, are you blocked? Right? If you were blocked, that means you have no steady flow. Right? That's definitely no steady flow. You might be leaky, right? So that means you get leads, but maybe you don't convert them to patients. Okay, maybe it's a little bit difficult. So they come in, but then they drop right out of the bucket. Maybe you have a trickle, and I call this the just enough, right? That's just enough so you're kind of getting by. Now, what I hear practitioners who are stuck right here say, what I generally hear them say is, you know what, I don't own my practice. My practice owns me. Like, it is completely consuming my life. I'm paying the price in my relationship with my partner, my friends, my kids. It's really, really costing me. Now, the next phase, which can be really, really exciting at first, is that you had a flood of new patients. So here you might have a wait list, right? Or you're booked out really far in advance, but you have no personal time, right? You might be feeling in this category, practitioners tell me that they feel overwhelmed, right? And this is also where we hear the word burnout. Like, I hear this so often, it really breaks my heart. They'll say, you know, Joy, I love this. I love what I do. You know, it's rewarding what I do. And it's just no longer feeling like what I invest into it, I'm getting back out. It just feels extremely imbalanced. Now, the flow, this is where it gets magical, right? This is where you have an effective process to convert leads cost effectively, and you're leveraging your time in ways that give you plenty of freedom. So tell me, if you had to think through this for yourself, I want you to think about which one of these describes where you're at right now. So just think about that for a second and think which one of these best describes you. Is it blocked? Is it leaky? Is it a trickle? Is it a flood? Or are you right here in this happy place called a flow? Now, it looks here like we have 5 levels. But I can tell you, for any self-respecting person who really realizes the value they bring to the world, there's really only 2. This is the way I look at it, certainly in my business. There's really only 2. Right? Because anything below here in the red, holy cow, that's just so stressful and life consuming. I can't really take it. But if we get up here, okay, well, financially, we're hanging in there. We're doing okay. The practice is good. We can cover everybody's salary. You know, everybody's fed and has a roof over the head. Life's pretty decent. We're going to be grateful and call it a day. But for me, after Maverick came in and said that, there's really only one that I'm going for, and it's this one right here. So think through that and let me know what you're into. But for me, there's really only one that I'm interested in. Okay, Now, like I said, there's 3 accelerators inside each pillar. So we'll look first at the 3 inside the aware piece. Now, just to be clear, you're going to need all 9 accelerators because they layer on each other, right? You can't go, let's just take a look at this here. You can't really start building your web of influence if you don't have your voice right. And if you don't understand the feelings and needs and daily life of your audience, your ideal patients, you just can't do it. So they layer on top of each other as you go around the circle. Now, the first accelerator in this aware pillar is foundational marketing, and it uses a 3-step process called telepathy triangle to make sure your messaging is totally on point. Now, the 3 pieces inside that telepathy triangle are competition telepathy, content telepathy, and customer telepathy, and we're going to use those to help create your foundational marketing. We need your messaging to be totally on point, and to us, that means the language that you choose in everything. You're going to have some catchphrases, you're going to have your headers, you're going to have your branding, all that stuff must connect the dots between your mission and your ideal patient's feelings and needs. And when your marketing successfully creates that bridge, awesome, you're good. Then you're going to attract patients that you truly enjoy helping. Now, the reason for that is that by the time they get through your web of influence, so by the time they've gone through your content, and by the time we've layered out the strategic traffic, we know that we're only serving ads and content to people who have engaged with content above that. So in other words, we take them deeper through the funnel, that by the time they are engaging with you, they're already pretty well familiarized with your protocols and with your personality. And I'm wondering, as a practitioner, how would you like that? I mean, does it make more sense for you to have patients who understand what you're going to demand of them, what their role is, and they come to you happy to comply because by the time they're interacting with you, they already know your philosophies. They even have a general understanding of your personality. You know, if you're really lighthearted and playful, or if you're really serious and hardcore. And so the personality types who appreciate either one of the ends of that spectrum are going to be there with you. Hopefully that sounds better than a bunch of non-compliant patients that trust Google more than you. You can let me know inside the group, right? When you're over at that Heal at Scale group on Facebook, definitely message me and let me know. And I want you to turn to page 17 in your handout and use the color code red, yellow, and green. So there's a model. It just looks like on the one you're seeing here on the screen. And I would like for you to circle that the accelerator that we're talking about. So right now we're talking about foundational marketing, and I want to give you to give yourself a green. So color that one in green if your messaging is totally clear and effective throughout your funnel. It means you love it. You read your own pages and your own content and you think, yeah, that's my style. That really sounds like me. And it captures the needs of your patients clearly. It should be working really well for you. That would be green. It's you love it. It's totally clear and it's totally working for you. It's converting for you. Now, yellow, you would want to give yourself a yellow if your messaging needs a little work, right? We might look at something and think, oh my God, this is embarrassing. This is totally not me. I don't sound like that. I don't talk like that. This is goofy. Why do I turn retarded on camera, right? That often happens to me. I look at the video and go, oh my gosh, I hate watching my own videos. But the messaging, what you're saying, if it's yellow, your messaging needs work. Now, red would mean you do not love the way your messaging represents you at this moment in time. And that's okay, right? Because that's where we know we need work. We got lots of tools to help you with that. But once you're clear on how you'd rate yourself, again, that's on page 17 of your handout, I just want you to keep track as we go through each one, because if you opt to hop on a call with us, it'll be really helpful for you to tell us like, oh, I really know that my foundational marketing piece is off or my web of influence sucks, but I'm great at traffic. It will help us to understand exactly where you're at. So color code these as we go along. Okay, the next accelerator is the web of influence. And this accelerator is all about the content that you have out in the world and how well that content works holistically to create a sticky web of influence that keeps your prospect pipeline refreshing with new potential patients. Now, that's the opposite of what we call spray and pray marketing, which is just throwing content out into the world and hoping, kind of fingers crossed, that it brings some traffic in. Now, as I talk through this, again, I want you to sort of rate yourself. That there's the chart on page 17. Rate yourself about how your engagement connects with your avatars on the platforms that they use most. Just kind of listen in and think about this for yourself. I want you to give yourself the color green if you're like, yes, I have awesome content out in the world. It's great. It brings tons of traffic. It brings tons of new leads that convert to patients. I love it. Yellow would mean, it's not so good. I don't love it. It kind of works, but maybe it's getting you into that trickle space where you have a little bit of leads, but you're not loving them. Or maybe you're attracting patients, but they're not people who you would love to treat. They're what we call PIDA patients, right? Pain in the ass patients. And red would be really bad. Like, oh crap, I need a web of content. I didn't even know that. That would be red. So track that for yourself on page 17. While you do that, I'm going to walk you through the icons on this web to give you a sense of how we simplify tracking, because we're going to put you on something called a weekly marketing scorecard. And instead of going backwards in all the content that you have, we're going to help you select the content that would lead to 3 lures. Some people call them opt-ins or lead magnets. And then we're going to drive those lures into your internal offers. So the little magnets on the outside are all about traffic, right? Those are promotions that bring in paid or organic traffic. The little boxes with the orange outline and the 3 lines there, that's content pieces. And then the lures are things that you could give away. Could be a PDF, a video, a checklist, anything like that. And then the center is the diamond. Now those present boxes, that's the present that you're giving them, those are the pages where you deliver the lure or the opt-in, whatever you want to call it. Those pages, we have some ninja techniques for using those pages to shortcut conversion for people who have a personality type where they make decisions a whole lot faster than everyone else. And we don't want to make them wait through a series of emails. That's what the gray envelopes represent, is email communications. They also represent Facebook chat in case you opt to do sell by chat instead of doing the majority of your stuff through email. We believe in both ways. We like a 3-legged triangle where we have people in email, in chat, and in a group. So those gray envelopes represent communications to them, so not necessarily emails. But there are some personality types that are going to get the lure from you and be like, oh my God, this is my practitioner. I love them. I'm in. Sign me up. Where do I go right now? And in those cases, we don't want them to have to wait through a slow development of the relationship. We want them to be able to go ahead and engage with you. All right, so that's the 1-3-15 content strategy. What we love about it is it drills down what you're measuring with your team week over week so that even tech challenge teams can learn and implement this, right? Because it becomes glaringly clear what content is working and what lures are working and which ones are not. So we can shut those down quickly and replace them with things that are more in alignment. But it all starts with you, your brand, yourself as a practitioner, having engaging content out in the world using a communication cadence, a rhythm, like how often you communicate, what you communicate. We call that a communication cadence that develops these relationships in stages, in the stages that are comfortable for them, right? Some people want to go fast, some people want to go slow. Now, that's why we created a practitioner content marketing blueprint. You're going to see that in just a minute. But before we get into that, I do want to let you know the third pillar the third accelerator in the aware pillar. And that's strategic traffic. Now, this is where we could really get lost in the weeds here and go through this because it can be very complicated. To be honest, this is one of the things that as the practitioner, we will want to keep most of this off of your plate. The exception to that is obviously we want you doing the Facebook Lives. We use those in our ad strategies. So you would need to doing that part, but we like the strategic traffic to be primarily off of your plate, but we want you to have a high level understanding in it so you know how your team will be asking for, or why your team will be asking for money to invest in the Facebook ad strategy and your Google ad strategy. Okay, so we're going to need to be strategic about the traffic, and that means the way that we have found is most efficient to do that we get to lean into the omnipresence of web giants like Facebook and Google, because you guys, like, their algorithms are so brilliant that they allow us to fine tune the audiences and the ads really quickly and efficiently, especially when we use video. That's our favorite method. It's working really well at the moment. Obviously it changes, but this is killing it. What that algorithm can do with videos is insane. But we found practitioners get a little bit stumped when we put them in front of a camera. So we created a process called the Marketing Manifesto, and that will walk you through cranking out your top, middle, and bottom of funnel videos, right? Tofu, mofu, bofu, we call it. Top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. So we help you script out those Marketing Manifesto videos, and it just makes it painless for you, because sitting in front of the thing or trying to be teleprompted or understand what you need to say can be really overwhelming. So we have a whole process that helps you script that out when you're ready for strategic traffic. So I'm wondering, just from this overview, we're going to dive into the a content marketing blueprint, which is just one of the tools that we use for creating your web of influence, for getting your content out in a communication cadence that really works. But before I take you through that, I would love for you to mark on here which one of these feels like you need it most. Is it the foundational marketing piece? Do you feel like you haven't nailed your branding, your messaging, and that of your avatar, right? Do you feel like you need help with your web of influence, understanding how to strategically release content? Or do you need help driving traffic? Do you need to kind of layer the way things are presented to people so that your traffic is cost effective? So have a moment, think about that. Get clear on which one of those that you would need most. And we will jump right into one of my favorite tools for jumpstarting your web of content in a way that gives you that communication cadence that really feels like a natural developing relationship rather than kind of cheesy marketing. I love the intersection of where just communicating as yourself can turn into connection and commerce with your potential patients. I think that's super fun. Now you guys can go through this whole entire guide. I put all the pages in this for you. You can find this separate guide itself inside the Heal at Scale Facebook group. But what I'm going to want to review in the time we have together today are these content grids. Now, these things are awesome. I'm going to show you exactly how they work. Let me switch over to my iPad here. There we go. Okay. So again, this is something that we could take a whole hour just talking about this, but I did a training for you and it's in the Heal at Scale Facebook group. So if you love this particular piece and you want to learn more, go to the Heal at Scale Facebook group and go through that full training video. I'll take you through and show you examples, but I just want to give you an overview of how this works. Now, the magic is up here. The magic is this bit up here. And the reason this part up here is magic is because this gives you the communication rhythm that feels like you're connecting with them rather than like you're just trying to sell them. And I think that's the mistake that most brands make. They're like, teach, coach, so you can sell my shiny stuff over here. So you can buy my shiny stuff, right? And that gets old, right? It's like you only have one capacity. You only come out of your closet to teach when you want me to buy something. And that can be a huge turnoff. So if you use a cadence that is a lot more like how we would communicate with or connect with our friends, then that works great. So let me tell you how this works. For me, when I design ours, I start over here, right? So for me, I start here, and I would literally start, this would be my Monday. It doesn't matter what day you start, but I will reveal that I go through it like this: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the reason that I like to do this is because I like these pieces here. These ones where we tend to be coaching, we tend to be teaching, and we tend to be offering lures, right? So these are both coaching and converting. I like those to fall on Thursday and Friday. People are headed toward the weekend. They're a little more relaxed. They're willing to take time in for these kinds of things. And then you can have them getting any follow-up content right away. So if they got that Thursday, they might be getting communications here, here, and here. And that could help them make up their mind about things while they have a little more free time on the weekend. Does that make sense? Okay, so let me walk you through these. The first one here, connect. Now, I think that's pretty obvious. I'm going to just get this blue out of our way so we can see these lures. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is all about connecting. So this first column here is all about connecting. Now, as long as you're going, this way through these squares, and then you come back around to the end, and you start again here, this communication rhythm is going to look like, oh, okay, they're just connecting with me, then they're being funny, now I'm learning something about their personal life, now they're giving me some guidance about something, and now, well, they're giving me a bigger piece of guidance in exchange for something, and then they're letting me know what's on their radar, what their future is. So now we're building a future together, right? Anytime we let them know what we're creating or what we're up to, meaning in a bigger sense, what we're creating in the world, the movement we're creating, or literally something upcoming for us, and then that we care. Now, if we do all of that, now we're not just showing up here like the person trying to teach and convert, but we are actually developing a relationship that feels a lot more like a friendship, right? Like relationships normally develop. So if you have that pace, great, then you're going to do amazing. You're going to see a huge difference in conversion. Now, I'll let you know, this is set up for 7 days, right? If you're only posting 5 days a week and you completed this huge chart here, you might want to adjust this so that your days fall on the right day of the week for your audience. If you know that, if you don't, when you work with us, we'll help you figure out what day and time your audience is loving. But you would have, if you filled out this entire grid, you'd have content for almost 2 months if you're doing if you're only doing 5 days a week of posting. But let's get into this a little bit. So connect. What could we do to connect? Throwing out anything for open discussion, right? So you might throw out, for example, one that I might throw out would be, an example would be, what CRM do you use? Now, that's going to do a few things. Some practitioners are going to be like, what the hell is a CRM? In which case there's a dialogue open, right? Oh, that's the way that you send emails and you track, did people opt in or not in, and this and that. That's the way that you sort of, it's a customer relationship management tool. And here's a few that we love. It might start a conversation that gets sidetracked because they don't know what it is. It might have people chime in and say, I use this one because I love this feature, and someone else, I love that one because it has this feature. Oh, I'm still using a really simple one. I'm sticking with MailChimp, it's old school, whatever. But you just get some open discussion that can bounce back and forth. All of these are pretty clear here, so I'm not going to spend time on these. A recommendation is pretty obvious, a tool, a rant, a rave, all pretty obvious. But these are just about connecting with the community, nothing else. For details and examples on each of these, go into the Heal at Scale Facebook group and go through the long tutorial on this. The next one is to sort of break the ice. Let's have some fun with them, right? Isn't it ironic? So a practitioner who, if you're joining the case study group that we have coming up, who's joining this, she had in this comedy, we had a funny one for her where, isn't it ironic that the same patients that complain about the cost of testing and supplements within functional medicine are the same patients who walk 2 doors down and pay $500 for a shot of Botox? Things like that could just break the ice, right? So if that's comedy is where we just want to do that. We just want to break the ice. We just want to show that we're human, right? Oftentimes there has been this setup between patient and practitioner, like, oh crap, I can't tell them everything. What they say goes. I just have to shut up and listen. And you want to break all that down, right? You want to get into a situation where this is a partnership. They have to do their part of the healing. You're going to guide them. But, if you tell them what to do and they don't do it, then it doesn't work. So we find that comedy really breaks down that barrier and opens up a deeper relationship. Character is also about building relationship, getting it nice and deep. Origin story. Hey, what got you into this? Whose shoulders do you stand upon? Weakness, anything that, for me, that would be like, oh, I moved too fast, right? Thank heavens that my partner in business, Travis, is a systems ninja, because oftentimes I'll just want to go with the project, and I don't take the time to organize it and create a system where the team can come back and do exactly what I did, the way that I did it, to the level that I did it. So a weakness for me would be moving too fast, right? So on and so forth here. I want to make sure, one, to clarify here, a team member, let's just highlight someone on your team to get comfortable. Nemesis, you do want to, I'll give you, idol is obvious, but nemesis, I wouldn't say, Dr. Oz says this and I vehemently oppose to that. I mean, you certainly could. You could do that. But if that's not within your foundational marketing to be that sort of controversial with someone, then that's fine. You could use a nemesis that's like, let me give you an example of one of mine. My nemesis is spray and pray marketing, right? I believe in really strategic, organized, thought out, connected marketing, really heart-centered marketing. Spray and pray marketing, where you just throw out I just vomit out content and hope that it works. That's my nemesis. I just don't like it. So you can have a conceptual or theoretical nemesis. Okay. So don't feel like you have to badmouth anybody when you get to that nemesis box. Now, coaching, this is your time to teach. Okay, so when you see this answer questions, that's just, hey, on your Facebook page questions, if you have a group, if people just have frequently asked questions that they, inquire when they're with you, great, all that qualifies, answer that. That's a form of coaching. What mistake do people make? Give them a model that works. People used to eat off the old food pyramid and that model just doesn't work. Here's the new way, here's the way I look at that you need to eat. That would be an example. Points and tips, that's pretty clear. But right in this whole section here, I want to give you some warning that both this section and the conversion, because oftentimes the lures and the webinar, so like lures here, webinar trainings, these things also involve some level of coaching or teaching, right? So in this section, I want you to be really careful to share know-how, right? So I want the patients or potential patients to understand that you have the know-how to solve their problem. However, I want you to give them know-how, right? So in other words, I want you to show them the basics, the sweeping broad strokes, but I don't want them to have the exact steps to do it, right? That would be devaluing your intellectual property, your protocols, your processes that you've developed over all your years of being a doctor. So you want to deliver know-how with know-how. Again, there's some training, that training in the group, the Heal at Scale Facebook group will give you some examples of that. But one quick example would be, let's say you specialize in gut health, right? Well, let's say that you had a 3-phase process where, you have to remove everything that's aggravating the gut. And then you have to reintroduce to find out what foods might work for it. And then you also have to re-inoculate, maybe like it's 4 phases, right? So you remove everything, the food that might be bothering it. And then maybe you kill off bad stuff, parasites or bacteria. And then you start reintroducing foods. And then you might even need to re-inoculate the gut, right? So that would be a 4-step process. Now I'm making this up, you guys. You guys are the doctors. This is just a really crazy, this is an example. I'm pulling out my booty. But so if I said that to you, okay, I've got this 4R method for fixing your gut. I've said that you need to remove, but I didn't say remove what. I've said we need to rid, but I didn't say rid you of what. Bacteria, parasites. You don't know how to rid yourself of those, right? Well, you guys do because you're a doctor. But and then I would want to reintroduce. Well, how do I reintroduce smartly in a way that works? And how do I re-inoculate my gut with what of these probiotics? Or should I use fermented foods? Or should I make yogurt or whatever? So in other words, you are clearly showing that you know what to do. You do these 4 things. Easy peasy. but you're not exactly telling them how. And that's where they engage with you in order to get that, because you've put your life into this, and that's where the exchange needs to happen. So be super, super careful when you're doing your coaching that you show know-how, but with know-how, okay? On the conversion side, this is where we're actually going to connect with them. So at this point here, we're going to attempt to get them in 3 places. So let me just move all this out of the way so I have a little room here. And what I am going to ask you to do here on conversion is we want to try to get them on email. We want to try to get them into a group, right? So that would be like a Facebook group, right? And then we want to try to be able to message them as well, right? So we want to be able to try to chat them. So if we have these 3 things, I consider that a really great stool for marketing right now. It's 3-legged. Well, we can talk about how to get a 4th leg later when we have their phone number and we can be texting them. But that simple 3-legged stool makes me feel like, okay, your marketing is balanced. So if Facebook throws us for a loop by changing their algorithm, or your email CRM gets shut down for some reason, or your deliverability goes to crap, like, okay, we already had them in a group, so now we can talk to them in a group. So I want to make sure that that's clear for you. So when you're converting, we want to try to connect with them in all these different ways. So convert them just means gather either their email. Oops, sorry, I erased that. So either their email, get them into a group, and to be able to message them. So by conversion, I want you to grab one of those 3 things. Okay? So now creation. What creation is all about is letting them into your world of what's going on. So what do you have going on? Well, if I have it all my way, soon you're going to have a group program. Right? So soon you're going to have a group program. Hey, all of you who've worked with me to solve X, we've got a group challenge coming up. It's this many weeks. It does this many things. It costs this much money. Great. Okay. Latest research, yours or anybody else's, a sneak peek of anything you've got coming up. Maybe you're launching a private label and there's something special about one of the supplements you've got. That would be a good example. Influencer and expert. I think those are pretty obvious. Again, there's a long tutorial on this. Don't worry too much about it. Showing that you care. I think this one's pretty obvious, so go through the story, but obviously what a patient is up to now, that just refers to, hey, without breaking any HIPAA compliance, right? So we would say Susie in Saskatchewan or whatever, wasn't able to walk her dog around the block, but now she's signing up for her first 5K. That's an example based on what they did with you. So this is the communication cadence. So the whole point of this, you guys, is to move through. So I connect, I'm funny, I show my character, I do some coaching, I convert, I let them into my world to know what I'm up to, and I show I care. Come back around here and repeat, and so on and so forth throughout your content. Now you have woven a relationship together rather than just come in and do this, like we say, always coaching, always converting, come out seeming like a know-it-all, but showing no personality that lets people decide, is this my guy? Or is this my gal? Is this the practitioner who I think can help me? Okay, so hopefully that was really helpful for you. Since you're not here with me and I don't get feedback, I do want to share briefly a story about a practitioner that this really helped. Now, I'm a huge raving fan of Dr. Sarah Gottfried. If you're not familiar with her, Google her, follow her, get on that bandwagon, because she's transforming medicine. And specifically, the way I perceive it, she's trying to transform things for you guys. She's trying to make the practitioner's life even more rewarding, and I admire that about her. And then, of course, she also has her own brand where she's helping people balance hormones and live longer and look better longer. And, of course, that's very inspiring, too. She's currently the president of Metagenics Institute, and you can imagine between her own brand and that brand how much high quality content that is at her disposal, right? But as a woman on a mission to change modern medicine, she certainly does not have the bandwidth to micromanage a team about what content to put out on what day. And so content grids like the one we just went through, they provide her team total clarity on what to put out in the world every day. So none of this falls on her plate. She's not thinking about this, you guys. She's on her mission. She's doing her thing. She's focused on what she's amazing at, and she does not get distracted with this. So I'm curious, is this something that you'd like off your plate? You know, what could you be putting your time to? Would you finally get your book done? Would you finally design your own supplement? Or would you finally build your online program? So definitely in the insights and actions page, make sure to take a note about what you might do if you had the extra time and didn't have to worry about that. And we will move on to the next pillar, which is convert. And we'll take a look at cultivating relationships, creating intelligent invitations, and delighting and delivering. Now, remember, everything in this pillar is designed to take those who become aware of you and turn that initial connection into a commitment to themselves to do what it takes to heal, and a financial commitment to you to engage, to buy from you, whether it's your product, your program, or coming in to see you. Now, because this process is all about attracting your ideal patients, we start by cultivating relationships. And, you know, I mentioned this briefly when we were doing the overview, but I just get sick when I see how much money practitioners are spending on getting people to run their Facebook and their Google ads. But then once they do that, once they get a prospect to their stuff, they're not bothering to pixel them and retarget them on Facebook. And some of them aren't bothering to capture their emails, the lead's email at all. And those who do are not doing a great job of indoctrinating them. It's almost like they don't understand the way that indoctrination should go. They kind of do this email stream where it's like, hey, here's the thing you opted in for. And then they just expect that they're going to engage and buy from them. And that's completely crazy, right? So tell me, so that you can fill in your assessment on page 17, I want you to think through that for yourself. Once you have made a connection, whether you get eyeballs on your website or you get someone into a Facebook group or consuming content on YouTube, it doesn't really matter. But once you've gotten a lead to your content, how do you rate your current process of indoctrinating them into your style, in the way you practice? How do you pre-qualify them to see if they're a good fit? So go to page 17 in that particular accelerator. Again, this is Cultivate Relationships. Put green if it's awesome. And that would mean that you have a high converting indoctrination sequence that's totally automated. And then you have sequences that are triggered to go out after that indoctrination. So indoctrination, they get to know you, you get to know them, and then you trigger sequences that would push sales, right? If that's you, badass, you're doing awesome. You would definitely color that one green. Yellow, I would consider that yeah, you send a few emails, but maybe you don't love the communications. And I would give myself a red if I was like, oh crap, I'm not even doing any of this right now. What the heck? That would be red. But don't worry about that. You know, obviously you're going to see the most success the fastest if you're not doing anything. And we don't have to undo anything that your team thinks they're doing right. And we have to explain that they're doing wrong. So don't worry if you're a red on any of these things. All right, I need a sip of water here. So excuse me. All right, the next accelerator in Convert is making intelligent invitations. And again, that just means asking for the right prospects to take the right next step at the right time. So again, think of this like dating. We don't walk up to a stranger and ask them to hop into bed with us unless that just happens to be your thing. That would be skipping way too many steps for most people. So what we need to do is have a smart strategy that takes baby steps toward the end goal. So tell me this, how do you rate your ability to make intelligently timed invitations? Put your color code in that chart on page 17. Green would mean you move them progressively deeper into your funnels and content. So that would mean, hey, you know, maybe you serve something over on Facebook or in a Google ad, and that brings them to maybe a piece of content or a video, and then maybe that invites them to a lure. And they get a lure, then they're getting emails or they're getting a mini chat if you're using chat and Facebook. Either way, you're delivering an asset, and then you make timed invitations to work with you that make sense based on how they engage. That's awesome. Okay. Now, yellow would mean that you're making invitations throughout your content, but it really doesn't have any rhyme or reason. You just drive people to content, and willy-nilly you have different lures and different invitations and different promotions, but you haven't been strategic about orchestrating that. And then red means you're philanthropic. That means you give away tons of content, but you're hardly, if ever, asking for the close. Now, in our dating analogy, these would be the people who end up in the friend zone, right? Because they never really ask for what they want in the relationship. They just keep doing and doing and giving, but they forget to say, hey, do you want to go out on a date with me? Do you want to get married? Do you want to do, I love you? They forget that part, right? They forget to put themselves out there for what they really want, for the ways they really want to engage, right? Now, once you've colored in on page 17 how you feel like you're doing there in terms of intelligent invitations, let's move on to delight and deliver. Now, delight and deliver is just really all about delivering your services, your program, your products, and you want to do all that in a way that turns your patients into mavens, right? If you're in a physical location, that means that they're giving you great referrals of friends, and they're giving you reviews on Yelp and that sort of thing. It keeps the relationship strong and ripe for future sales if we deliver really well, right? We do something really well for someone, we know they're going to refer their friends, or they're going to come back if they need us for something else. Now, what's generally missing from this particular section is standard operating procedures, SOPs, right? And why we need those is so that everyone who gets the same level of wow, we want everyone to have that same wow experience. Now, if we have someone on our team that does an amazing job of, let's say, expressing care, right? So if you're going through a particular protocol and they might say, oh, I always call after this test. I always call after I've asked them to change their diet, or maybe I send an email or text, whatever your care is. We would want the next person, let's say they referred their mom or their best friend, we would want them to come into your sphere and have that same exact experience of that the first patient had described. And if we don't have SOPs in place, then that can fall off and it might not happen. So having those delight and deliver is both doing it well and having operating procedures so that it can continue to be done well. If you have a turnover on your staff, or if you have a practitioner who's working under you, try to provide the same experience. Okay, I know that there's a lot more to that one, but just from this brief explanation on page 17, make sure you rate how you're doing on that, how you think you're currently doing on delighting and delivering, and making sure that's a process that, again, it's that McDonald's example, right? It's as amazing today as it would be tomorrow if I ordered it in Tokyo. Now, in my experience, the thing that I see teams that work for practitioners struggling with the most is with automating the cultivation of relationships. And I totally get it. It's really hard. It is impersonal, right? It's happening through technology that automatically takes it one step away. But we've come up with a process that we feel indoctrinates with grace and style. This is the shortest version. This is a summary version. You may need a longer one depending on what your practice stands for and what protocols you're pushing and offering out into the world. So I'm going to teach you the Patient Indoctrination Accelerator today, because this is one of those things I feel like, wow, if you learned this today and shared it with your team, you really could just rewrite this tomorrow and upload it into your CRM and see a huge difference. And I want you to have some big wins for today. So turn to the page in your handout that shows this communication roadmap, and I will walk you through this. So I'm going to get out of my highlighter here and go back over here. Actually, I will use that one so I don't make it dirty. Okay, so we're going to start right over here. The reason you see 3 of these is not because you're writing 3 emails to the same person on the same day. That's not it. But because this email is lure specific. Okay, so I would write one email that is specific to the lure I just offered them. Again, a lure is just an opt-in, a handout, a cheat sheet, anything you want to give away. And that lure will need a specific email, right? It will basically look like, hey, so-and-so, here's the thing that you wanted. And you'd put the name of the lure in there, right? Here's the thing that you wanted. And since we're new to each other, here's how we can work together if you ever need me. It's very casual. It's super easy. There are examples of this in here. And what you'll want to do to go through the full longer examples of those is, again, I made you a long video to hold your hand through this in the Heal at Scale Facebook group. So make sure that you do that. But basically this lure specific email is going to reference the lure, and it's going to say, hey, here's your thing, right? Here's the gift that I wanted you to have. Here's the gift. That's a little bow on top, right? Here's the gift, and I'm here for you. So if you ever want to work with me, I can help you this way or this way or this way, right? And that might be hey, here's three blog posts that are really popular. I have a training in case you want to get to know what I do better, and you can work with me. That might be an example. Now they've gotten their lure. It's on their radar how you can work for them, but you're not pushing or hard selling anything. And that would be a lure specific email, and they got everything they wanted, and you're off to the races. Okay, so this email is specific to the lure. So I write my lure. The very next email that I would send, so now we have a lure specific email, and we're going to move over here, is a SPEAR email. And SPEAR just stands for short, personal, expecting a response, right? And the reason that we do this is because it feels more like almost like a text message, right? So if I wanted to know if you could go to the movies with me tonight, I wouldn't send you a long email with some cheesy title. I would just have a subject line that says, hey, movies tonight, ? And in the email, I might say, hey, I can grab tickets for the 7 p.m. showing of so-and-so movie, right? And it's really super simple. And all you have to do in your busy, busy day, if that comes across your phone, you see it, you open it, it's a yes or no answer. And so the whole point of the SPEAR email is to ask a really quick yes or no or very short answer question that's just like friends talk, right? So if you're in our series, for example, you're getting an email that says something like, hey, is your practice more general, or do you have a particular specialty that you work for? Something like that, right? So it would be like, hey, do you have a specific niche that you treat, or is your practice more general? And that's a yes or no, right? Oh, I specialize in hormonal balancing. I specialize in clearing psoriasis, whatever. So it takes you 2 seconds to answer that email, and you're getting back to me. Now, anyone who is bothering to answer you back, woo, this is a hot prospect, and we ought to be paying these people some attention. Right? So it's worth it for our team to get back to that person, because anybody who bothers to write us back immediately, that's a good thing. We're happy about that, because that person got the lure probably, and then right away we're sending them. This is on day 1, and you guys, you can go at a pace that works for you. When we customize this for your practice, we'll work with you on the frequency and duration that it needs to be based on your particular practice. But here, now, I know some of you are probably thinking, holy crap, if I got a bunch of responses back, what the hell am I going to do? That's going to make me crazy. Well, obviously, this needs to be off of your plate, and those emails need to be going to a team member who would be responding, either in your voice or their own, to say, oh, hey, that's amazing. We love, we've helped thousands of patients with that particular thing. Would you like to set up a consultation, or would you like to set up a phone call, or any of that, whatever your next step in the relationship is. So you can move these people through a lot quicker if they respond. Now, if they don't respond, well, now we know something, right? We know either they didn't open it, they're not that engaged, they're not that into us yet, or they just don't have that personality style, right? Because there's 4 different personality styles, and there's 2 that will move quickly, 1 that will move insanely quickly. I find most of my spears fall into that category. But if we do this, if we give them, hey, here's the gift for you with tons of info, right? That's going to be here in our lure specific. And then we have a quick invitation. The people who have that personality style, they're competitives who want, yes, this is my person. I make decisions quickly. I know what's right and wrong for me. We're giving them an on-ramp to work for us right now. The rest of the people, we're going to keep them on the freeway. Okay, we're going to keep them going. So they have the chance to just come on down and work with us. Okay, so those people have an on-ramp to get off the freeway and into action with us right now. Here, if not, we're going to do one of these pain emails. And what that means, what the pain stands for, is problem, agitated, interest, nurtured. Okay? I guess I should put a comma there. Problem, agitated, interest, nurtured. So what we're going to do here is we are going to sprinkle some salt in the wound of this person, right? So we know that something is going on for them. We know that they have a little boo-boo going on here. This is a really lame picture of a Band-Aid, you guys. Sorry about that. Good thing I'm in marketing and not an artist. So we're going to sprinkle some salt into that wound, and we're going to agitate the problem, and we're going to say, hey, we know it sucks if you have, we'll stick with our psoriasis. We know it sucks if you have psoriasis. Like, oh man, it can be so embarrassing. We have patients who say they never wear tank tops anymore, or whatever. So we're going to talk about their problem and introduce the idea. Again, what are we going to show? We're going to show know-how with know-how. But in here, we're going to agitate their problem and get them interested in this, in the actual, not the know-how. We're going to get them interested in this, because this is where we make the exchange to them actually working with you. We're going to do that with 3 different problems. So we're going to agitate problem number 1, number 2, number 3. There are 3 biggest problems. Now, if you're dealing with something insanely complicated, we may guide you to augment this and do more. But in most cases, we can get away with this initial sequence being relatively short and very quick, so that we can decide in or out really quickly. Because for your list hygiene and for group hygiene on Facebook, we would like to make sure that we get people in or out if we can in a shorter span of time. Right? Also better for you guys financially. And then at the end, we send another short spear. And this could be as simple as like, hey, would you like to work with me to get that psoriasis gone within the next 3 months? Right? That's another one. And if they respond, woohoo, that's a hot prospect. And we know this is someone that we need to get our team on the phone with and get them scheduled. Okay. Now, if for some reason none of this works, okay, so they go all the way through, they go to this one, then they go to this one, and so on and so forth, and never have they clicked through, never have they bought, never have they scheduled, then they're going to go into our house list, and you're going to trigger the next communications. So that means we're going to have the next series ready to rock. So if we go all the way through here and we get no action, what is it that we're going to do next? Are we going to send them to a training? Are we going to send them to a different lure? Are we going to send them to content? We're going to have that plan ready to rock. And then we would trigger that so that those next things are automated, right? And you want to be very strategic about the order in which you are automating things. And if we have an order that we go through, hey, we jump through, this is hoop number 1, we have hoop number 2, hoop number 3, they don't jump into that, then you have choices about how you drop them into your house list and how you tag them. So we would separate those two and tag them in different ways, engaged people from unengaged people, and we would treat them completely differently. So that is a really quick walkthrough of how to implement a nurture series in your practice right away that we have found insane increases in conversion on. Now, since you're not here with me, so I can't really ask you questions as to how you think this would help you, I just want you to think about that for yourself, and you can make notes on the Insights and Action page. But I want to quickly share a story with you about a series that we created for JJ Virgin, because in her case, she was asking people to take 7 steps, 7 really complicated steps. So we really needed to support them. And this is also, her audience is a very discouraged audience, right? They've tried a lot of things, particularly for weight loss, for other symptoms, but primarily it was for people who had extreme weight loss resistance. So we needed to do a few things, right? We needed to make sure that we let them off the hook for why it wasn't working. Look, diets don't work if you're eating food that you're intolerant to. Your body's going to protect you by packing on safety pounds, right? So we had to give them an off the hook, and then we had to slowly walk them through what they would be dealing with if they engaged with her, right? So in her case, it was 14 days straight with no breaks, and I was sent an email every day. But by the time we got that, people got through that series, those people had been met where they at. where they're really at, right? So they knew that she understood their struggles, their frustrations. They were absolved that what they had tried before didn't work. Plus, it really made JJ's personality really clear, which it isn't for everybody, honestly, right? Like if you want someone who's going to coddle you and this and that, like that's not her. And she wouldn't want those people in her sphere, really. She wouldn't want those people. She wants people who are ready to like stop feeling sorry for themselves and take some freaking action. Like she has a very no BS, kick-ass personality, and people who engage with her are really attracted to that, and they get amazing results because they respond well to that. So someone who might break down and cry if they were faced with that personality, well, when they read the content, when they read the series, they would be like, oh my gosh, maybe that's a little harsh for me. This isn't for me, which is great, because then when people are in her groups and her programs, they're little butt kickers who want to get results, and they encourage each other. And if anybody falls off the wagon, they're right there. You got this, girl, you know. The team does it for her. The group of people, the group of patients in there do that for her because they're all that type of person who's comfortable with her personality style, you know? So that, and in case any of you are wondering, like, holy crap, 14 days in a row, that's super crazy. Who does that? I do want you to know that that was her best performing series of all time to that point in the growth of that business, and that it had a 0.01 opt-out rate. So it wasn't like people felt like we were spamming them. They loved it. They consumed the content. It was really good because it was all super strategic and it all made sense. They were left wanting more. They did not by any means feel like, oh crap, another junk mail from this woman I don't want to hear from. Complete opposite of that. So what's interesting too is that like that indoctrination sequence, it is meant to have on-ramps for people who want to get on board and work with you fast, but really it's just to indoctrinate them, to get them in or out. So worked amazingly well for her, and definitely none of that was on her plate. She didn't write it. She didn't put in a CRM. She didn't do any of that stuff. She just went through it, approved it. Yes, I like it. Okay, good. Let's go. Do it. Done. It was off her plate, and it was amazing. It also did some pretty high conversion rates, considering that it was the indoctrination sequence, where in that particular strategy, it was really meant to be hit with a webinar first thing after they went through indoctrination. That's where the selling was meant to happen. But there were sales and connection right there in the indoctrination series really quickly. So that's awesome. So I'm wondering, and you can put this answer on your insights and actions page, what impact would it have on you if this indoctrination that really made it clear for people what your personality, what your prospects are like, what's going to be expected of them, if that was all clear and you were attracting more patients that were in alignment and on board with that, what do you think that would do for your day-to-day stress level, your income, for how many people you get to help? Specifically, that piece of having patients who are on board and aligned with you. I'm really curious. So note that for yourself. In the Insights and Action page, you have a page there to go through some notes. And this last pillar, which is my favorite, because guys, you can run a business with just the first two. You can just use the accelerators in Aware and Convert, and you can heal like crazy and have a really rewarding life, and you'll have healed and touched the lives of many, many people. But this pillar is my favorite because this is where you can scale. This is what allows you to grow and have that healing that you design happening in the world, even when you're not the one implementing it one-on-one with patients. And to me, that's leaving a legacy of health. You know, that's like, you know, JJ, the woman that we just talked about, like her book, The Virgin Diet, it's really like a sort of easier version of an elimination diet, right? It's just taking out 7 categories of foods, right? So people will have a huge different experience in life if they cut out those 7 foods, and they could pick that book up years from now, 100 years from long after her lifespan. And that legacy of being able to do that, and all the meal plans she made and all that. I mean, she's leaving a legacy of health that will live longer than she does. And I think that's phenomenal. So that's why I really love this particular section. That, and when you use the Elevate processes, that's when you can be making money while you're sleeping or while you're out having fun with your family. Okay, so let's take a look at the first accelerator. So the first accelerator in Elevate is Evaluate and Innovate. And this is the process of harvesting feedback from your team and your patients to see what works and what doesn't. We went through this briefly in the overview, but I want to make sure you understand briefly each one. And then, of course, we'll dive into one piece of this really deep. So When you get that feedback from your team and your patients, you need to decide what to do about. That's where the innovation comes in, right? This process is essential so that we can streamline prior to scaling. If you scale and you just start, ramping up your strategic traffic, putting out more content, you dial everything up, but you have not done these evaluations and innovations, then it's going to break. Basically, problems that are little right now are going to become huge errors, gross errors, I should say, when you scale. I mean, it's just bad. So if you had to think now about how well you're asking patients after they interact with you and asking your team, maybe especially if you've ever done a live program or like a group program, group challenge, anything like that, asking everybody how it went for them and then asking the team, okay, what worked, what didn't work. I'm wondering how you rate your agility at collecting that feedback and then making changes to both the offers and the operations. So if you want to use that same chart on page 17, I encourage you, give yourself a green, and that would mean that you have a testimonial harvesting process in place and you have a follow-up team meeting after you do any sort of program or anything to assess the effectiveness and the profitability and the need for change. What made your staff or yourself crazy and what worked really well. Yellow, give yourself a yellow. If you do something like maybe an NPS score, a Net Promoter Score survey, and maybe at least send an email asking for feedback, that I would put that in a yellow. Red means you've probably forgotten to collect these kind of insights from your team and from your patients or the people that you help, and implement changes on a regular basis. So think about that. Give yourself a color coding on page 17. I'm doing all the chatting here. I just need to take a sip of water. Okay. The next accelerator is profit progression. And this is moving through stages, right? This is how well you move through profitable stages. On the customer side, it's going to evaluate how well you convert existing clients into additional or ongoing offers. And on the business development side, it looks at how we progress sales as we grow through things like affiliate relationships, supplement sales, including knowing when it's time to private label your own stuff rather than sell other product or brand names, and when it's time to expand the practice. Now, I want to pause here because the majority of practitioners that we start with get really stuck. So I'm curious if you'll go ahead and go to page 17 and note for yourself, how do you think you're tracking these things in your practice right now? Do you have systems in place that could help you move through a profit progression really naturally? So go ahead and rate yourself and let me know how you're doing on that. All right, and then the third accelerator in Elevate is leveraging leadership. The tools inside this accelerator all focus on making the most impact and income with the smartest use of your time, your talents, your protocols, even your team, right? Because the leveraging is going to start with you, but that's going to trickle down to everyone. So we're going to have a really clear org chart here, know what everybody does. And if somebody does something really well and other hats need to be taken off of their head and passed on, that becomes really clear when you're using the tools inside the Leverage Leadership Accelerator. It really does require, though, doing what most small businesses forget to do, and that's work on your business instead of in it. So if you want to assess how you're doing with this right now, I would say you could rate yourself as a green if you've got clear org chart, if you have a really clear org chart, if you have SOPs for your offers and your services, if you have a one-to-many offer already in your practice. That means you have a group program, maybe it's a group challenge, could be live or online, doesn't matter, but you've definitely got a one-to-many model. Could be a condition-specific protocol that you take people through in a group setting. And it doesn't matter. You could be doing this in a Facebook group, in an online program, hosting course. It doesn't matter. But if you've got a one-to-many and you've got the SOPs in the org chart, I would say give yourself a green because you just need to refine a little bit, probably. The only other thing I would say to put yourself in a full green is that you're doing your strategic quarterly plan. That's really essential. Yellow would mean you've got some processes and protocols hashed out. You've got some accountability. Maybe you're using something like a project management tool, so you've got clarity and accountability on how things are going down in your practice. And then red would be getting by. So you're kind of getting by day, but you do not have an organized quarterly plan, and you don't have one-to-many group programs or other revenue streams other than the one-on-one visits so that you can leverage and you start really scaling. So make sure to make a note for yourself on page 17 about where you think you're at with each of those 3 things. Now, obviously, what we are most passionate about is making sure you have a one-to-many model. We think that makes the biggest difference. You can make money while you're sleeping, while you're traveling. It's easy to grow. It's easy to update. It's easy to scale. And it adds something that can be missing in one-on-one care. Because I can't tell you how many times I've talked with patients. I personally perform really detailed avatar interviews with real humans, like get on the phone with them and dig out what's going on. I love doing that. And I can't tell you how many people are like, you know what? All the things that I tried before, I failed because I didn't have the community. And when you have an online program or a group challenge or something where your people who you're helping also have a community to support them, well, then they can vent, they can get encouragement, they can get other ideas, they don't feel alone. And a lot of times, especially when it comes to diet changes and lifestyle changes, you know, if they're alone in their social circle, in their family, and they're not making those changes, God, that could just make the difference between success or failure right there. And that's inherently a part of the group setting, right? So they already have that. So they're already one step closer to, you know, being heard and being felt and having people to commiserate and celebrate with. So that's what we're most passionate. So I'm going to dive into the leverage leader piece and give you just one tool. And this is designed to help you create your one-to-many program. And you can sketch out everything right down to the little special touches. And we're going to do that using this handout here. So hopefully you have this right in front of you. But done right, the program is so effective that all you'll need to do is show up as the expert, right? You need to pop in on the live interactions. You'll need to address any individuals that might want to opt for your individual visits or individual coaching. You could totally do that. This is not do away with the one-on-one model. I just want to make that perfectly clear. But especially when you're dealing with a complicated case, we're going to look at a story of an autoimmune expert here in just a minute. Like if they've done the heavy lifting of cleaning up diet, cleaning up lifestyle, changing chemicals they're exposed to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if they've done all of that and then they invest in a visit with you, well, imagine how much stuff is out of the way, right? How many problems are already cleared up by the time you're actually interacting with them, which is way more cost effective for the patient. And it makes you look like a superhero, right? Because they already know you. They done what you said so far. They may need to just fine tune tiny little things to make the difference, to cross the bridge to full health and vitality. All right, so let's get into this. One thing, again, because I'm going to be speeding through this a little bit, I just want to let you know, don't worry. You don't have to stress about that. There's a full video that goes into tons of detail on this handout. So you don't have to worry about that. If you're the type who feels comfortable going through this more slowly, do not worry. Go to the Heal at Scale Facebook group, watch the hour-long tutorial on this, okay? So we are going to start here by highlighting exactly what we need to do. The whole point of your program is to understand their problem, right? To make sure we get you, we understand you, it's not your fault, right? So that means that we need to have a firm understanding of what are their most prominent symptoms. So you need to understand what are their first top 5 symptoms, the biggest problems, okay? Now, with those problems going on in their life, what are their frustrations? Now, I want you to know frustrations happen now. So frustrations are in the present. Okay, so because they have these symptoms, right? Who knows? Maybe it's a rash, maybe something's burning, maybe something's falling off, maybe they're having hot flashes, who knows? Depends what you treat. But then from those having those symptoms in their life, from having those symptoms in their life every day, I want you to list here their frustrations. Okay? What's happening now that's frustrating them? Then I want you to list their top fears. Now, the difference between a frustration and a fear is the fear is based on what's going to happen in the future. Okay? So frustrations are going on right now. Oh, you know, I'm having hot flashes. That's really frustrating. I don't really like it. It's embarrassing, blah, blah. My fear is, oh crap, this is it. It only is all downhill from here. Am I going to have this for the rest of my life, right? Or worse, right? Depending on what condition you're treating. We've worked with practitioners where their fear is death, right? I don't know what this is. I don't know why this is happening to me. Am I going to die, right? So the fear might be really, really extreme. And depending on how big their fear is, will dictate how we need to have a conversation to escort them from their problem to, let's just get this one, to the promise. And the promise is feeling better, right? Getting back to vitality. This is where they're back to being happy over here, right? So how do we go from being sad face monkey over here to being happy face monkey over there? How do we do that? So the bridge to do that, well, that pretty bridge is you and your protocols, right? So we're just going to build this bridge one step at a time. Maybe it's a 3-week thing. Maybe it's a 12-week thing. Maybe it's a year-long thing. You're going to call it, but this is your bridge that you're building. That's what your protocols are. This is the shiny thing that's going to help them get to the other side, okay? So once we know their problem, so we're clear on the symptoms, you list those right here, you list all your symptoms here. We want to know their frustrations that are happening right now. And then we want to know, based on those frustrations, they're going to have a whole bunch of fears, right? So the hormonal women, well, they're worried they're going to get a divorce because they've been kind of bitchy recently and their husbands are not so happy about that, right? So we want to look into their future. Now what we want to do is we want to fill in this one, right? We want to say, what is it that they want? Now, you guys, this is super simple because, let me move this out of the way for a second, because it's going to be the opposite, right? So if we're talking about hormones and I'm currently having insomnia from my hormones, I probably want to sleep through the night. I want to sleep well. Right? If I am, maybe I'm moody over here, I'm super bitchy, I don't know why, I have no patience all of a sudden, I want to feel centered and calm and like myself, right? So it's pretty much, these are going to be opposites, right? So if I have this, I want this. If I have a rash, I want clear skin, right? If I'm super moody, I want to be calm. You get it. So these should match up as the upside opposites, if you will. Same here. If their frustration is, well, geez, I feel every day like I'm agitated, I'm in a total state of overwhelm and I hate it, this is not me, I'm a really happy person, then my desire when I get over here is, hey, I want to be my happy self again, right? I want to be my happy self. Or if it's the rash, like, hey, my frustration is I'm embarrassed. My current frustration is that I'm embarrassed. And over here, I feel confident, right? So that might be the example. I feel like my skin is pretty. I can wear tank tops again. I'm good, whatever it is. I'm assuming they have a rash on their arms in this example. Okay, now their fears, same thing. Okay, here, if my future is death, if my long-term fear is death, it's I live long and prosper. I have vitality, right? And there's going to be things on this fear list that as a practitioner, you need to be really aware of. And this one that's always here in terms of the long-term fear, where in terms of you guys, is no one can help me. There's this fear that like, oh man, I've tried so many people, been to so many specialists, spent so much money. Clearly, if this last one can't help me, no one can help me. And that means that over here, the flip side of that is going to be, I have help on my side, right? I found my person, right? I found my healer, whatever it is. I found the person who can help me. Now I have someone in my corner, right? The aspiration is not to be alone, right? The aspiration here is not to be alone anymore. It's to have the help that you need, right? Help is available for me. So keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to get some of this out of the way here just so we can get into your center spot. Okay, now this I feel like I probably don't even need to explain this to you guys because your protocols are your protocols, right? This is you. This is the heart of what you do. So you know exactly what assessments you'd want them to fill out. You know exactly what testing you need. You know what would make a difference if you knew all this stuff, right? If you had all of this stuff, well, then you could speak to them really intelligently and you could really dial things in really quickly, right? What changes in diet and lifestyle do you want them to make? What might the treatment options be? And you guys, you want to list everything here, because even if you get into like the RX space where you're like, well, Joy, listen, I could have a program, but half of them might need to actually get on prescription medicine. And of course, I cannot legally do that through an online program. And you are absolutely flipping right. That's awesome. Good to know. But if you had gotten through all of this and you had got a whole bunch of stuff out of the way, and let's say that changing their diet and their lifestyle, and with certain testing you found other things that were getting in the way or exacerbating the problem, then by the time you get down here, maybe they need less prescriptions or no prescriptions. You never know, right? So just keep that in mind, that we're not eliminating, this does not, group programs do not eliminate the one-on-one. They just don't. Oops. Excuse me, guys. Bouncing out here. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you're clear that it does not eliminate one-on-one. Opening this, I'm getting too close to that link. Okay, so it does not eliminate that one-on-one. It does not eliminate that these people might actually need to see you one-on-one and have prescriptions done. It's just, what are the things that we can do to get them in a group setting, get them through the bulk of it, and have as much change made without that as we possibly can. Now, once you've got here, you guys, this is the simple outline, but I've structured this here for you so that you can fill it in week over week. So, okay, before you get started on week 1, this is the content that you want to have already inside the program. Now, when I say already inside the program, you can deliver your course on a course delivery platform. You can do it through Facebook Live in groups. Heck, you could even do it live as a group in your practice, like with live humans in a room if you wanted to go that route. But this is what you would want to already have in their possession by the time you start talking to them in week 1. So this would be any welcome videos, any preliminary assets, testing, action. So for us, we always start by getting people to get into the group, right? Because we want to start the camaraderie and the connection. So we want to start that. So we would always have them been doing that here. And so for ours, there might be homework, right? There might be homework stuff that we want them to share in the homework that they want them to do. And there might be bits of it that we want them to share. And there might even be some swapping that we want. Hey, like, you check my character diamond, I'll check your character diamond. Like, we might set them up with partners. So week over week, whatever you want them to do, I want you to hash this out, right? One at a time, go through this, get it clear on exactly what you would want. I only hashed out 12 weeks here for you, but you could easily just copy and paste this if you were doing a much longer program. This last page here, these last 2 pages are about creating the page and the promotions, the sales page and the promotions for your program. So again, there's a long tutorial on this inside the Heal at Scale Facebook group. So I'm going to leave this at that for now. And again, I want you to go into the Heal at Scale Facebook group, go into units. Units is listed on the left-hand side of the group page there. You'll see it. And go and get that long training if you want some more information and some examples on this. Okay. Now, again, quick story about someone who this made a huge difference for. And that's a doctor named Amy. She specializes in autoimmunity, and she's a rock star. I mean, this woman is on fire. She has literally changed the lives of millions of people through her books, and she would have people who traveled from around the world to see her at her clinic in Austin. But you guys could probably guess what life looks like when that happens, right? Because when you're the person to see about some particular ailment, of course, you're going to fill up, right? Your schedule's going to be busy. You're going to be booked out months in advance. And that part's awesome because you don't have this financial concern to worry about. You're steady, stable. You've got patients coming in for sure. But you could also imagine what else it did. I mean, it attracted a ton of really difficult patients, insanely complicated, layered cases, right? And these people tended to be a lot more desperate. You're the last stop on my track. You don't know what else I'm going to do. They're also super frustrated already because they've already invested tons of money and been through tons of processes and protocols and drugs and this and that. So they're super frustrated. They also had a really negative mindset and a strong emotional attachment to their illness. I mean, literally, they put all the responsibility for their healing squarely on this doctor's shoulders. So can you make any guesses about her quality of life in that scenario? I mean, talk about overworked. I mean, woman must have been exhausted. And by the way, the whole reason that she started specializing in autoimmunity is that she had Graves' disease herself. So, I mean, ideally, stress management and amazing self-care, that those things should all be a big part of that woman's life, right? Now, I don't want you to worry because Amy's story had a very happy ending that's still going strong today, thanks to the processes and strategies that you're learning about here today. She actually closed her clinic, you guys, and it wasn't because it failed. Quite the opposite. Her brand is freaking thriving. She's doing amazing. She closed her clinic because her online programs reached and reversed autoimmune symptoms for so many people. Way more people than she could possibly have helped if she continued to treat one-on-one in the clinic. So she and her implementer, she had an implementer named Jordan, who's also a rock star. They did a phenomenal job of following the profit progression systems in the ACE method. And the sales of her online programs, as well as her branded supplements, there's a lot of bundling going on with the programs. Awesome model. Her online programs and her branded supplements were able to scale so rapidly that this once stressed out doctor is now practicing without the clinic, right? So now she has so much more time to take care of herself. She's adopted a baby girl. She gets to spend tons of time being a mommy. Just stuff that wouldn't have been, possible with that crazy lifestyle of treating people one-on-one nonstop and just not having time to take care of herself. I mean, I can attest, I'm sure all you guys can attest, my patience with my kids is much less when I'm not taking good care of myself and when I'm not balancing work and life and, taking good care of myself. So I'm curious, and please note it on your insights and actions page. What would you do with that kind of leverage? What would you do if you could maybe close things down? Or if you love doing the live in-person treating, then keep it. But if it was optional, how much you worked there because you had other revenue streams that literally make money while you sleep and while you're on vacation. And if your SOPs are clear, even in your clinic, you can have practitioners follow those protocols and those programs so easily that, again, you're still making money when you're not in the clinic, when you're on vacation. All right, so let's go ahead. One more thing that I think you should know on the insights and action page is start to think through what type of group program could work for you. Right? I'm always curious when I talk to doctors, like what types of things would work for you? Would you want live, like in office group programs? We've seen that. Personally, we like the online or digital versions because they can be used 24/7 by people anywhere around the world. But definitely start to get curious and think about what you might want to launch first. Okay, now I want to take you through this quick effort to outcome ratio here. I want to take a look at this because I want to let you know that, it's normal for all of us to have to do hard work, right? It's totally normal for that. But here's what generally happens. We have practitioners that just work really hard, seeing patients day in, day out until they're exhausted usually. And then they have this reward from it. They have a reward because they're helping people feel better, and they have a reward because it's financially rewarding, hopefully. So they work really hard. They do tons of effort, but most of them are when I do a lot of one-on-one phone calls, and I did for a huge supplement brand. I got to talk to all of their A and A plus clients, and so I got to ask them about, okay, where were they with this effort to outcome ratio? And the vast majority were lucky if they had this 8-to-2 ratio, right? I'm saying that's the lucky people. More and more of them were feeling more like even this one was not working for them, right? But I want to tell you, when you heal at scale, that's a completely different game because it will take time. I'm not gonna candy coat this for you guys. To create your program is gonna take time. it's going to take a ton of time. You're going to have to get clear on it. You're going to have to teach your team how to do it. You're going to have to put the content into an organized way that it can be consumed. Now, most of this can be done by your team. You're just going to have to get clear on the outline that we just went through. You'll have to design, sort of sketch out the program. And I ask practitioners to get their team in the room and, hey guys, what handouts do we already have? What do we normally do? If this test comes back this way, we kind of flow chart it out and help design that. But once you do this hard part, then this part can bring in reward whether you're there or not. Like I said, we really love the digital programs because those can be making money while you're sleeping. They can be used by people in other countries. They can be used by people who can't get to you. All that stuff means you can be enjoying the reward of helping people. Not just here, but anywhere in the world, right? And not just people who can afford to see you visit after visit one at a time, but someone who can maybe get in essence, it's a price break, right? So if they're able to buy into your protocols, buy into your intelligence and your experience that you've developed years over year, well, then now you've got a ratio of 1 to 9, right? You can put in effort of 1 and you can enjoy an outcome that's lovely of 9. And that's amazing. It's an upside for you because this looks a lot better to me than suffering through working a lot and not really loving the rewards I'm getting. But it's also really cool for the patients because what is an initial visit and all the follow-up visits cost versus getting an online program? I bet if you did the math on that and they just went through all the heavy lifting that they need to do in terms of changing diet, lifestyle, exercise, adding in everything you want them to do, looking at things differently, doing the assessments, doing any testing, starting any supplements, starting any regimens you want them on, then by the time they are investing in those visits with you, you already know you've got the big, slow-moving stuff out of the way, and their investment in their one-on-one time with you now, A, you look like a superhero, right? Because you've already guided them to get as much success as they will have already have had by the time they're in front of you. And B, you know it's none of the things that were cleared up in the program that are still in the way. So it really simplifies and is more cost effective for everyone. So I'm gonna switch gears out here. Hopefully, if you're on here on this page 17, you've been filling in this self-assessment, right? Hopefully you've been coloring in your reds and your yellows and your greens around this outside model as we've been going through the 3 pillars and the 9 accelerators in the ACE method. If you have, you should be starting to see where you're doing great and where there's some parts in your practice that need a little bit of help. Now, there's 2 questions that we ask everyone prior to working together because, quite frankly, we need to tie our efforts to your vision. Our vision, what Travis and I and our team here at Practitioner Accelerator are up to. And we realize this is a big, audacious goal, and that's the kind of thing that we like to sign up for. Anything less doesn't really excite us. But our goal for the next 12 months is to add $1 million to 20 practices. 1 million to 20 practices. That's our goal. And we know with the practitioners that we've helped that that's completely doable. But we want to do this in a group setting. And so the goal is to get 20 practices to add a full additional $1 million to their practice. But we realize that for some of you jumping in, hey, a jump of $100,000 or $250,000 in 12 months might feel amazing. So that's why I want you to think through, and I put a sheet in the handout here for you. What would a good solid next 12 months look like for you? So I want you to get clear on that. What numbers would you want to get up to? I'm talking about in terms of income, financially. I also want to know, what do you want your hours to look like? I mean, how much time do you want to be doing one-on-one care? How much time would you like to be teaching? How much time would you like to be doing, the group stuff? How much time would you like to designing things like products or supplements, anything that your market needs? So I would like you to get clear about all aspects of what you would love your practice and your life to look like in the next 12 months. So definitely take a few minutes and do that. And the other thing that I would like to know is, of all the stuff we looked at today, what are 3 projects that you'd like to have done within the next 90 days? Now, we looked at a lot of stuff. We could really only look briefly at all 9 accelerators, and we had time to do an exercise in one accelerator from each of the 3 pillars. But any of those 9 accelerators, which ones would serve your practice best if you knock them out in the next 90 days? So I want you to take a minute and write that down here. You may want to meet with your team and talk about this kind of stuff and fill them in on what we've talked about today and see if they have some input on that as well. And you also saw a lot of case studies today, right? You saw a few different stories of practitioners where we definitely impacted their lives in a massively positive way using the ACE method. But there's one case study we didn't get to at all, and that one is yours. Now, we're opening a case study group next month, and we would love for your practice to be the one we get to brag about the next time we're doing a training like this. Now, the case study group is a year-long program aimed at adding $1 million to a practice in 12 months. That's our internal goal here. We want to do that for 20 practitioners. Now, we're going to arm you with a few proven quick win strategies so that you're rapidly reimbursed for your investment in the program while we use the first 3 months to get your practice set up with the 9 systems that will generate a consistent flow of new cash patients, increase that patient retention, and improve outcomes. And we want to do all of that while setting you up to have more free time by adding the one-to-many model to your revenue stream and looking for other leverageable revenue streams to bring in money while you're sleeping, right? Or at least while you're on vacation. And then we'll optimize everything we build together by layering on some, if I don't say so myself, some pretty ninja strategies using our specialist trainers that are included in the program. Now, we have specialist trainers in Facebook ads, in messaging, which is going to cover your copy, your ads, your emails, everything on your, branding and general, all the conversation and connection piece. That will be covered by the messaging coach, including Sell by Chat. That's a huge one that's working really, really well. We'll also have a coach on systems development and on metrics tracking. Now, this case study group is your opportunity to stand on the shoulders of practitioner giants that we've helped market and scale to multi-million-dollar brands. You don't have to test the waters and figure out what's working in marketing right now. We will give you the 3 funnels that are performing best right now. I'm talking about templates for the funnel. We'll explain the tech for each funnel. We'll give you copy examples, all the messaging. We'll give you clear examples and clear instructions. We'll walk you through it. We'll coach you to refine it. Heck, you guys, if you're willing to use the same funnel creation systems as us, we'll even push the damn funnel templates directly to your account. Now, that's really huge, right? Because then all your implementer is going to need to do is change out the copy and the imagery and replace your offer with the instructions that we've literally put into the templates for you. And that will really be a fast shortcut if you're willing to do this, right? Now, if you've been following along in today's training, then you're already starting to see, right? You are already starting to see right here, okay, well, maybe I'm doing really well over here. And I saw, okay, over here, I do not like this. I don't think that we've nailed it. We haven't really got everything super clear. You're starting to see, okay, well, I do content, but there is absolutely no strategy to it. So maybe I'll give myself like an orange kind of thing here. And then, oh my gosh, strategic traffic. Nope, I'm just paying someone to do it. I have no idea how it works. It's the same way. You guys might feel the same way that I feel when I look under the hood of my car. Like, why the heck am I even looking under here? I just have to take it to the mechanic. I just do not know what's going on. So you might have a whole bunch of areas that are colored in all different colors, but by now it should be clear to you where you need help. Now, each of the 9 accelerators, we went through them briefly today, but each one of them has its own toolbox that's jam-packed with proven tools to accomplish each objective. Now, when we hop on a call to do your practitioner accelerator strategy session, we're going to get into the specifics of your practice, right? We need to know what tech do you use, how much team do you have, or are you willing to hire as things grow, so that we can customize which tools to use and in what order to accomplish your goals. That's why I gave you those 2 sheets where I need to know, okay, next 90 days or next year and next 90 days. We're going to need to know that on the call. Now, since we don't want to waste your time or ours, I'll tell you right now that none of the stuff that we can give you, none of what we can help you with is going to work if you're going to leave it all on the sidelines and you're not going to get on the field and get dirty, right? We are looking for players who are wanting to get out there. They're going to just choose progress over perfection, right? We need to make progress. The practitioners who do choose to join this case study are hands down the group that will get the most customized support in overcoming any implementation snags. And that's because we literally need you to succeed. That's why it's a case study group, right? Your ability to implement our processes is a required element for this program to thrive, to do well in the world. So we're going to be all over your success like white on rice. You are our next case study success story in the making. In this way, we see you and us as partners. We see you as a partner with us. So there's a few things that you need to know before you brainstorm with us. Well, the first thing that you should know is that our goal is to make your practice so profitable that your passion for it grows as you scale up. If you're not as dedicated to that mission as we are, then we're just not going to help you. We can't. It's not possible. The next thing that you need to know is to achieve that goal, we've got to move pretty damn quickly to help you implement 9 battle-tested systems that provide a consistent flow of new patients while better leveraging your time and your team. That means that you, as the practitioner, as the brand leader, you personally will need to dedicate 2 hours a week to the process. Now, those 2 hours that you contribute will provide what your implementer needs to make an entire body of lures and content to attract your ideal patients on the digital platforms that they use most. Now that brings us to your essential helper. You need an integrator to implement the step-by-step marketing initiatives that we're going to provide. They don't need to be a pro at all things related to digital marketing. That's not necessary. But they do need to be patient enough and open-minded enough to follow our detailed tutorials on everything from page creation to pixel placement. They're going to need 2 hours per day, Monday through Friday, to implement on your behalf. 2 hours, Monday through Friday, in order to really implement and get this going. Remember, you guys, 1 million in 12 months. Like, that's a big, hairy, audacious goal. So I get it. If you've got someone on your team, the thought of losing 2 hours of their time every day, man, I get it. It's a big investment and we really respect that. But we have found that that's what it will take to put all of these processes into play. Okay. And on our call, if you choose to book an accelerator session with us, on that brainstorm call, we're going to cover ways to incentivize your implementer so that they stick with you, right? Because what they're going to learn is going to make them a hugely valuable asset for any practitioner. And we want to make sure that we do this in a way where, people aren't poaching your great, amazing people after we teach them everything to put your practice in order. So we can talk about that on your call. Now, this last bit is totally optional, but again, if you choose to be on the same technology platforms we use, then we're going to be able to push funnels directly to your account. I can't reiterate this enough, that is a huge shortcut, you guys, because if you take advantage of this piece, literally all your right hand helper needs to do is swap out copy, the images, change the colors and fonts to match your brand's style guide, right? And your funnels are going to be up quickly and efficiently. Oh, I get too excited about this and it's easy for me to go down that rabbit hole. So I'm going to stop myself and we can cover that in detail on your practitioner accelerator strategy session if that's something that you're interested in. I want to let you guys know that after a decade of helping practitioners, we've dialed in the process that replace feast or famine flows of qualified leads, of qualified patients, and we've transitioned that so that you can have consistency. And we think that consistency is key because that's what gives you confidence, right? Confidence to hire so that everybody in your org chart who's currently wearing hats that really they shouldn't be wearing, it's not a cost-effective thing for them to be wearing. It'll give you the confidence to hire, right? If the income is consistently there, you never have to worry about leads, then it becomes okay to hire an outsourced person to post your social media for you so you don't have to do it, right? But until that confidence and consistency is there, that's scary. It's really scary, right? We want you to have that confidence so you can hire as needed, you can scale fluidly, gracefully, loving it. It becomes a game, right? It becomes a game for you, for your team. it really becomes fun to watch your weekly marketing scorecard every week, right? And ultimately, we want you to get back to taking regular vacations with the people that you love most. Now, if that sounds like something you want for you and your practice, then I encourage you to book in a Practitioner Accelerator strategy session. Now, I realize hopping on the phone with someone you barely know, you just hear what you hear in this training, I realize that sounds like a scary thing and it might be a waste of time. So I want to tell you exactly what will happen on those calls should you choose to book one. On that session, we're going to do 3 things. First, we're going to have a look at your market and your offers and your current systems to work out what's really possible for you in the next 90 days in terms of your impact and your income and making sure you still have your independence, right? And we're going to look at how we could grow that over the next 12 months. Once we get that, once you answer those questions for us, and I gave you a worksheet, right? So you'll have a lot of that done so we can kind of breeze through it. The second thing we'll do is we'll look at the way you currently attract new potential patients, how you convert them to actual patients, right? And how much of that process is ready for scaling up. Again, what got you this far may not hold together when you scale. So we're going to need to ask you a few questions about that. We're going to be looking for the 1 or 2 biggest gaps that are holding you back right now so we know what to focus on so we can gain traction fast. We find that as we start, if we can get you and the team some big wins early on, then they get excited about checking that weekly marketing scorecard. And again, it becomes a game. It honestly becomes a game. I mean, obviously it's fun for me because I geek out about the intersection of content and your plans with connecting with humans and turning that into commerce. That's where I like to play. But even teams, we see them get excited only so long as we get that traction in the beginning. As long as it doesn't drag on in the beginning and we get traction, we see them get really excited. Now, the third thing that we're going to do is we're going to map out a 3-step action plan. Now, that action plan is going to be designed to amplify your impact, give you predictable profits, and increase your autonomy. That's the same thing that we talked about in the ACE model when we very first started our conversation today. So that's what we're doing. Map out a 3-step action plan. That's going to give you clarity and confidence to scale your practice. Now, that session is completely free. And I'll be honest with you, the reason that we do those sessions for free is really, really simple. It's because when we go through these plans, there's a percentage of you that will love our strategies and our styles so much that you're going to want us to help you implement the darn thing, right? You're going to want help implementing that plan. And for those of you that we feel like a good fit, then awesome. That's where we dive in and get you going, get you on track to be, one of the practitioners in the 20 that we're committed to growing by $1 million within 12 months. That's the game that we're playing. That's the game we're up to. But if it's not you, if our style is not your style, this is too complicated, or just not a good fit, great. Then you still have that 3-step plan and you can run with it on your own using your team. But the only way to get that 3-step plan is to click the button on this page. When you do, you're going to answer a few simple questions that just let us know about you and your practice. And then after that, you'll pick the time. You'll see the calendar there and you'll pick the time that's best for you. And then we'll hop on a call. And if you're up for that, then simply click the button on the page. If for some reason you're listening to this and you're driving, you can't see it, then you can go to practitioneraccelerator.com/apply when you're ready. And that is the page you need to get to book your strategy session. Now, there's one last thing I want to throw out before we wrap up today, and that's that I want to pull something out of the dark and into the light. And that's the massive income gap between practitioners who adopt the Heal at Scale movement and those sticking to the one-on-one model. Now, tell me if you can relate to this, because I used to get super pissed off that people who did the same exact work as I do got way more money and way more attention. And I knew for a fact, because I had clients who had, used them and then also used me. I knew for a fact that they provided far less for a way higher price. And that's a really sucky feeling. It was super depressing. I don't know if you guys have ever felt like that, but unfortunately, it's not the best provider that wins, right? Independent practices are businesses. You guys are business owners, and only 3% of small businesses make it. It's not the best providers, services, or products that win either. The winners are the people, the businesses who can create marketing that keeps new leads flowing in, that has conversion processes in place that close cost effectively, right? So you don't break the bank with your marketing, and have systems that will make the whole model scalable, right? It has to be able to grow beyond just you, it has to be able to get bigger than you. And it's really easy to look at people like Dr. Oz or Mark Hyman, or even some of the people that you've seen in these slides today, the Amy Myers or the JJ Versions of the world. And you might think, hey, they're no better than me. How come things aren't working out as well for me? And I totally get it. You are absolutely right. They are not better than you. They've just got better systems in place. I mean, Kanye West said it best, you guys. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. And what would it be like if you transformed your practice into a scalable business instead of a practice that's overly reliant on you? What if you make yourself replaceable, at least to a degree? I get it. You guys are healers. You're born to heal. You may always want your hand in treating patients one-on-one. So when I say make yourself replaceable, I just mean to a degree. Let's take all the hats off of your head that don't belong on your head and put them somewhere else. You can do that using processes that empower you and your team to heal at scale. So think about that for yourself, and just think about, what would the difference be? How would life, day by day life, everyday life, your work week, what would that look like? And I realize it can be super polarizing to talk about health and wellness and certainly recovery when someone's really ill. It can be really polarizing to talk about that as a business. And apologies if that offends anyone, but with all that we have seen behind the scenes of practitioners that we've helped get into that successful 3%, I know it's systems that save sanity. They make more profits. And honestly, you guys, they reach way more humans, right? You're here to do your magic, to heal the world in the way that you want to heal, to bring more humans to health and wellness. And I know that it's systems like used in the ACE method that make that happen. So the whole point here is for you to go into your strategy session, if you decide to book one, knowing that you are worthy of far more money, making a far bigger difference, and enjoying the freedom to celebrate your success. Your medical training prepped you to care for people. We'll prep you to get their attention, get them into action, and make more money in the process. If you're in, then just book your strategy session. I've told you exactly what we're going to cover on that call. The only other thing to say about that call, I am in partnership with my best friend, my husband, my partner in crime. And I know that if you're making a decision about a whole new big way of doing things, a different strategy of handling your practice, that's a big decision. So you're welcome to bring your partner or your integrator on that call so that everything's clear. You don't have to re-explain it after the fact. So you're more than welcome to do that. If you're ready to book your session, I'm excited to speak with you. You can do that by clicking the button here on this page, or you can go to practitioneraccelerator.com/apply. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you for all the time that you have spent with me today. I very much appreciate it. Please feel free to message me. Just message me directly. If you go to Heal at Scale on Facebook, you'll see I'm very active in that group. So please reach out, introduce yourself, say hi. I've been talking at you for coming on 90 minutes now, and it would be great to connect with you and hear about what you specialize in and what's going on in your practice. So please pop in the group and say hi to me. But let's definitely look at how to apply this directly to your unique practice. So click the button on this page, schedule your session, or go to practitioneraccelerator.com/apply, and you can do it there. Talk to you soon.